Hey there, it's CJ. So today we are going to talk about the 10 questions to ask yourself about telecommuting. And these are a set of questions to think about. Maybe you're not telecommuting yet, but you want to telecommute. So just run through these questions and we're going to do a quick overview of what they are. So question 1, do you like to work by yourself or do you need a social work environment? And what do I mean by this? So are you much more of a solitary worker where, you prefer to see your coworkers maybe at lunch, on breaks, but you don't really need a social environment to survive or to feel useful at work? Now, you might be a person who's a social butterfly and you actually really like the open office concept and you spend a lot of time talking with coworkers and such. If you're a social butterfly, you're probably not going to like telecommuting. But if you're okay working by yourself most of your day, you are going to be a good candidate for telecommuting. Number 2, are you good with follow-through on projects and assignments without constant supervision? Now, this may seem like a strange question, but it really is important for you to be honest with yourself. Do you like having somebody constantly reminding you, hey, how are you doing on this project? Where are you at on this? And they stop by your office or stop by your cube and just check in with you. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that if you need that kind of support. If you are very good with follow through on projects and assignments without constant supervision, you're probably going to be a good candidate for telecommuting. If you like having that social interaction and a supervisor or project lead coming by saying, hey, where are you at on this? You know what? You can still make telecommuting work. You'll just have to check in more on that. Now, what about question 3? How effective are you at managing your digital files? And what I mean by this is, can you actually find files or photos or spreadsheets from 1 month ago? Do you suffer from digital file overwhelm? If you do, we're going to help you get control of that because you're actually going to need to be on top of your game when it comes to managing your digital files. And that leads us over to question 4. Can you find items like spreadsheets or documents that you created multiple years ago? In this case, for the question, I just threw up 3 years ago in this situation. But can you actually find older spreadsheets and documents? For example, you're telecommuting, your boss texts you or they email you and they say, hey, can you find this budget report that we did back in 2015? Do you actually know how to search for that? And this leads us to question 5. Can you find those files in less than 5 minutes using either Windows or Mac and using the search functions for your file directories? Be honest with yourself. Can you do this? Maybe right now you're not on top of your game with this. That's okay. We're going to learn more about it later on in our telecommuting training series. Just be honest with yourself filling this out because, again, you're at the beginning of this process. Now let's move on to number 6. Do you know what a virtual private network or a VPN is? For most of us, if we work at a mid-sized to larger corporation, most likely the IT department has set up a VPN option. And a VPN is basically going to create a private gateway, a private doorway into your company's network. And that leads us to question number 7. Do you know if your employer has a VPN and if you will be required to use it when you telecommute? This is where you need to get to know your friends in the IT department. And if you don't have friends there, you need to find some. Because you're going to be talking to them, asking them some questions. You're actually going to need to know, do you have to use VPN and how you access it? It's not very hard to do this, but just being aware of it is going to get you at the head of your game here for this option of telecommuting. Now, question number 8. what is your home internet speed for uploads and downloads? You're going to have your IT folks or even your boss probably ask you about your bandwidth. And that's what this means. Now, a lot of people, because so many people actually are now streaming different services, there's worldwide gaming, everything else, a lot of us actually do have good enough internet speeds at our house to handle telecommuting. And this wasn't the case even 5 years ago. But now, with just the uptick in so much streaming and the different streaming services for multiple devices, most likely your home internet's going to be able to handle this, but you'll still want to look like a star player by knowing what your expected upload and download speeds are. Now let's move on to question 9. Will you use Wi-Fi or will you need to use a hardwired or a home Ethernet when you telecommute? So a lot of people will be able to use Wi-Fi. Where I see people who need to use a home Ethernet or the hardwired connections throughout their house, that is a situation a lot of times if you work with a lot of remote sensing applications, you're pulling down big, huge files, multiple gigabytes, sometimes even a terabyte, something to that effect, or you're doing a lot of geospatial work. So if you're not familiar with those terms I just talked about, those type of career fields, you're probably going to be just fine using your home Wi-Fi. Now, number 10, are you comfortable being on video calls and using a webcam? Why do I bring this up? More and more as people telecommute, there's an expectation that they will be available for video calls. So whether your workplace uses something like Skype, or my workplace, we like to use Google Hangouts, there's an expectation that you'll be able to pop up in the little screen there. So you have to get comfortable. And I recommend practicing and such like that. It sounds silly, but you really do want to become comfortable. And notice I said become comfortable being on a webcam with this. You may not be right now, but we'll work towards that. So here you have it. 10 questions you should ask yourself if you're thinking about telecommuting. Like I've said before, if you don't know all the answers yet, that is okay. That's part of why we have a telecommuting training, is to honestly figure out where we are right now and where we need to move to. And if you have any telecommuting questions, I'd like you to leave it below in the comments section, and we will get around to answering those. Just leave it there and be sure to subscribe to this channel. And thank you so much for watching and taking the time to be part of this community. Have a great day.